Following are sections from the article apostolos, taken from the Hebrew word shaliach, which means one who is sent or agent, in the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. The rabbis summed up this basis of the shaliach or the agent in the frequently quoted statement, the one sent by a man is as the man himself. That is, the shaliach, the one sent, is as good as the sender in all that he says and does in execution of his commission. The principle goes back to the Semitic law of the messenger, in Hebrew malach, in Greek angelos, as presupposed in the Old Testament, where the messenger fully represented in his person the one who sends him, usually the king. The honor which belongs and is to be paid to his Lord is paid to him, the sender. We see this principle in the case of David and Abigail in the story found in 1 Samuel chapter 25. Verse 39, then David sent messengers to Abigail to ask her to become his wife. When the messengers arrived at Carmel, they told Abigail, David has sent us to take you back to marry him. She bowed down with her face to the ground and said, I am your servant, and am ready to serve you and wash the feet of my Lord's servants. So we see how Abigail treats the messengers of David as David himself. On the other hand, shameful treatment of a messenger is not so much directed against him, the one sent, as it is against his Lord, the sender, and cannot be ignored. For example, in 2 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1 and following, we see how the shaming of the messengers of David by the Ammonites turns out to be the cause of war against them. On this point, the dictionary adds these rabbinic commentaries: the emissary of a king is as the king himself, and another story from the rabbis: with what is the matter to be compared? With a king of flesh and blood who has a manager or overseer in the land, and the inhabitants of the land spoke against him, that is, the sender. Then the king said, You have not spoken about my servant, but about me. Other examples can be seen when Moses causes water to flow out of the rock, the prophet Elijah brings rain and raises a dead person, and the prophet Elisha opens the mother's womb and also raises a dead person, and the prophet Ezekiel receives the key to the tombs at the reawakening of the dead, according to Ezekiel 37 and other rabbinic sources. These are four examples distinguished by miracles which God empowered them to perform, and miracles which are normally reserved for God Himself in the Jewish tradition. There is also to be found in the New Testament in places like John chapter 13, where Jesus says, I tell you on the highest authority, whoever receives someone I commission receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who commissioned me. That is God. Here we may refer also to the phrase found in 2 Corinthians 8, verse 23, when Paul says that as for our brothers, they are messengers of the churches, the glory of Christ. In the New Testament, the apostles are officers of Christ by whom the church is built. In this respect, they may be compared with the prophets of the Old Testament. Paul says in Ephesians 2:20 that the church was built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets. Ephesians 3 verse 5, the secret has now been revealed to his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit. In Hebrews chapter 3 verse 1, Jesus himself is called the apostle and high priest of our confession. Here, the only possible meaning of the word apostolos is that in Jesus there has taken place the definite revelation of God by God himself, as the Hebrews writer earlier communicated in chapter 1 verse 2, when he says that in these last days God has spoken to us by a Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, through whom also he made the ages. And the Son here is best explained by the later Jewish shaliach principle. That is, in the Son there speaks and acts God himself. So, one uniquely sent by God is contrasted with Moses, the greatest bearer of revelation in the Old Testament, and in high priest with Aaron, the leading representative of the priesthood under the law, that is, the law of Moses.